Welcome into the Prep Zone. If you love high school sports, this is definitely the place for you to be. Maybe if you don't, you can learn a little something, so stick around for a little bit. Got Brandon Roth here, Brandy Sims. Their names both start with a B. They are different people, I promise. It just kind of rhymes a little bit. These guys are the experts over here. You guys have been covering all kinds of games this week. We're going to get into some of that, recap what we saw in high school football this past week. On top of that, get into some previews because we're getting into the playoffs now, which gets even better. Also, an interview with Josh Apple a little bit later as well with a recruit that you may not know about as much, a guy, but you probably should pay attention to. He's been breaking all kinds of records. We'll get into that as well here today on the Prep Zone. Coming up, a couple of unbeatens played. We are getting into our weekly rewind next here on the Prep Zone.
Next step, I will be heading to New York City, the Big Apple, and I will be working as an associate producer on World News Tonight with David Muir. And that'll include a lot of technical things, I think, from what I heard in my interviews and speaking with some of the staff members and the executive producer. A lot, editing VOs, VOSOTs, SOTs, but also working my way up to being possibly a secondary shooter in the event that a reporter goes out on a breaking story, or maybe David Muir goes out on a breaking story. When I learned that I got it, it was just it was an opportunity I couldn't say no to. It's ABC News, and you don't often get those calls. But I will say this, and I 100% firmly believe this: Synthesis, my time with them helped me set. That's the reason why I got the job.
Let's get right into it. PG County has produced a lot of football talent in the past years, but let's take a look at it from.
I would say the things that I learned during my time at Synthesis, learning how to never reject an opportunity, no matter what role you're playing, whether it's a cam op, whether it's talent. Also, it taught me, I think, to realistically see my goals. You're not going to achieve things like that. It's 1 in a million shot that happens. You have to work your way up, and I'm a firm believer that because I do want to eventually do on-air work, is that you have to master everything behind the camera before you get in front of it.
Welcome back to the Prep Zone, weekly rewind, and it's almost like a tongue twister because I'll probably have trouble saying it a lot. Let's get into some of the games that we had. 2 unbeatens to start things off. South County, Lake Braddock, 2 of the best teams in Fairfax. You had a chance to cover that game. You saw it. What did you see? I mean, the game went to overtime, so it was a thriller.
It was definitely a game of 2 halves. The first half was dominated by the Lake Braddock defense. I mean, you're talking about an interception, 2 sacks, a 4th down turnover. So the Lake Braddock defense really did well in that first half, but South County was just too much in the second half. And you see here, DeAndre Clayton, he was a big part of the second half. He threw for a touchdown. He ran for a lot of yards. And then you just had DeMarcus Ramsey come in, and he's the big bully. He comes in, as you see here in a couple of the highlights, and just starts to dominate people. He runs them over, runs through them. He is a big bruising back, and he showed why South County is the best team in Northern Virginia right now.
And they have Annandale coming up next in the first round of the 6A playoffs.
Right? That they do. It should be a pretty easy win, I would think, for South County. They've beaten just about every good Northern Virginia team they've had this year.
All right, next up we had good Counsel, DeMatha. Now, DeMatha, Brandy, this is a team people felt like has kind of underachieved a lot lately, and not really playing to their potential just because of the expectations on this team. They did get a win, maybe still not the best that they could have played.
Yeah, they came into the game, I guess earlier in the season. They started the season nationally ranked. And whenever good Counsel and DeMatha play, I've been to so many of those games. It's a great rivalry, one of the best rivalries in the country. It was the Great American Rivalry Series. They do that every year. 2 of the top nationally ranked programs, good Counsel and DeMatha. We're just so lucky to have 2 nationally ranked programs. Robbie Robinson, an Arizona State commit, played well, had 10 carries, 116 yards. Lorenzo Harrison, who's committed to Maryland, he had 17 carries for 165 yards for DeMatha. Muhammad Ibrahim, a great kid. I've had a chance to meet him and talk to him. He's from the Baltimore area. 22 carries, 202 yards. I mean, you can't do anything better than that. I mean, he's just that was just a great effort by him in a losing effort. And the game featured appearances by LeVar Arrington and Mike Loxley.
So everybody was out.
Two local celebrities. I mean, these are 2 of the best teams in the country, and everyone wants to see the best, and they got it right there.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at something. Look at these runs right here. I mean, you watch them, and it's amazing sometimes watching. It's funny watching high school a lot of times when you just see the difference sometimes in the talent. Some guys just stand out more than others. When all you have to do is watch a few highlights, and you're like, look at the performance from some of these guys. I mean, here are 2 touchdowns, 110 yards for Robbie Robinson. I mean, it's amazing watching him at times.
I love that rivalry. I mean, Good Counsel and DeMatha. I mean, I don't think there's any better rivalry in the country than Good Counsel and DeMatha.
Brandon, we're going to have Good Counsel then facing Gonzaga, who lost to St. John's. You saw that game. Gonzaga obviously falling. They got a postseason coming up now, so it's still some of the better teams in the area.
Well, I'm sure the guys at DC would argue with Brandy there a little bit about the rivalry game. St. John's and Gonzaga has been going on for almost 100 years, and you talk about 2 teams that hate each other. I mean, you look right there, Tyree Randolph, he's been the heart and soul of this Gonzaga team all year, pacing them on offense. They had some big special teams plays, as you see the block punt there, but it was a little too much of the ground game with St. John's in the second half. You talk about Maurice Bellin and Bangda at the running back, a freshman, and they were just able to get the ball on the ground in the second half and just run it down Gonzaga's throat. They also had a blocked field goal that you'll see in just a second. It was a big play for them and a momentum changer, for sure. They've had a lot of quarterback problems in the last couple of weeks as their quarterback, Luke Mann, has went down with concussion. So they've really just been trying to get it together. I don't think anyone really expected them to come out on top of this game, but St. John's pulled it out.
Yeah, what have they done dealing with that quarterback situation? What have you really seen them sort of do to sort of compensate for that?
They've pretty much just run the ball. Maurice Bellin doesn't have much of an arm, but he does run the ball really well. He's a small, quick guy, and they've been running the ball with him and a trio of freshman running backs. Bangda actually came out and kind of set himself apart this week, but they've got a couple other guys back there who are running the ball a lot, and they did that behind a strong defense.
Yeah, it's a nice performance too from a freshman. 2 touchdowns right off the bat. I mean, you got yourself a nice high school career probably coming up when you do that. All right, coming up, another comeback. More of our rewind coming up next here on the Prep Zone.
Single mother at home, she's working hard, so why not, put in the effort like, she is, giving me, food every day, every night on the table. She raised me, just to be a well-respected overall, person in life and, never give up on your dream. That's why I take football so seriously. And go. That's my motivation right there, my mother.
Akeem Hebron went here and went to the University of Georgia. And then Jelani Jenkins went to the University of Florida, and he's starting middle linebacker for the Dolphins. And Dorian Daniels is at Clemson. The Keandre's game was the best I've ever seen here.
That's the way to rip. I don't want to, put us in a category, but everyone doesn't have two parents. Grow up with 2 parents, so it's life. One parent's not there. Another steps up. Like my mother, she has stepped in and been that father figure, that that mother to me. So for the most part, I don't even see it as not having a dad, because she plays that role so good with being both parents and providing for me.
They elected him captain of the team last year as an 11th grader, which is extremely unusual. I don't remember the exact numbers. We have like 57 kids on the team, and I think 55 out of 57 voted for him for captain. And the rest of the people were getting like 25 and 28 and 22. But he's like that with every kid in his math class. I mean, he's just a wonderful guy. He really is.
My mom tells me, you got to go out there and give it, your all every play. And that's what I try to do for her, just never give up on my dream. My sophomore year, like I said, we lost by 1 point in semifinals to DeMatha. Bounced back, came back last year, 10-2, lost in the championship. She was in the stand screaming. I came right to her after we lost, turned a smile on my face just because, I love my mom. So from there, I wasn't really sad.
You can purchase a copy of this video at DMVSTREAM.COM. That's DMVSTREAM.COM. Thanks for watching.
We're back here in the Prep Zone. More of our rewind now in some of the games we saw first before we get into our previews a little bit later. Brandy, Tuscarora, Broad Run. Tuscarora 10-0, best in Loudoun County. These guys are like the king of comebacks.
Yeah, these two Northern Virginia rivals, Tuscarora and Briar Woods, doesn't get any better than that in Northern Virginia. You had Michael Burnett, the coach over there at Tuscarora, getting his 100th victory. But I mean, the story of the game was definitely the quarterback, Daniel Smith, the senior, outstanding, 15 for 24, 254 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. He also was a force on the ground, 13 carries, 109 yards rushing, and a touchdown. I guess Nick Speroni was his main target, the talented wide receiver from Tuscarora stormed back to score the game-winning touchdown with less than a minute left, and they finished the regular season 10-0. Doesn't get any better than that. They'll host Patrick Henry next. Briar Woods is going to host their conference rival, Briar Woods.
You know, the amazing thing about that is just thinking when you can see guys that are in high school at the high school level have that, the ability to lead a team back that many times like that. I mean, what does that say about a player like a Daniel Smith who just helps lead these comebacks as a quarterback at such a young age? I mean, I understand that, you know, it's not, you're playing against even competition for the most part, but that has something to say about him as a leader. Right.
It shows his maturity and confidence as he's able to, to lead his team back to a victory. I mean, that's a very impressive performance for the young man. 85 points scored in that game, so those two teams definitely like offensive football.
A little bit of an upset too. Georgetown Prep and Episcopal. I think people would probably say that was the case. What'd you see there?
Yeah, Georgetown Prep and Episcopal, two IAC rivals. I mean, I've had the chance to see Georgetown Prep play on a number of occasions. I love their quarterback, Sean Stripmatter, great kid, comes from a great family, Montgomery County family, the Stripmatters. TJ Dozer and Owen Wright, they're two talented running backs. Georgetown Prep is just, Dan Perro is just leading that team this year. He's been around there for years, Georgetown Prep alum. And Georgetown Prep with the win, they claimed at least a share of the IAC title. And they'll play Bullets next. That's going to be a great matchup. But once again, Georgetown Prep, the running backs, TJ Dozier and Owen Wright getting the job done. I mean, there's such a balanced offensive force there over Georgetown Prep, and they definitely deserve that IAC title.
You see a score just 12-7 a little bit. Would you give it more credit to the defense when it came to that game, or was it just maybe mismanagement somewhere offensively?
Yeah, defense. I mean, defense. The key to winning games and the defense, the key to championships is defensive football.
It's funny. That's a cliche, but it's still always
right.
works.
It's so true.
Always.
It's so true. You need defense to win championships. If you don't have defense, you need someone to stop and put the clamps on the offense.
All right, Brandon was at the Avalon Calvert Hall game. A little bit of a surprise with Trevon Diggs and his commitment.
Absolutely. Many people in the area thought Trevon was a heavy Terps lean, and we got a little bit of a surprise this Saturday. We go out to Calvert Hall, and it was kind of weird. You don't see kids commit on an opposing team's field very often, especially a team who's thought to be favored. And he did that. He got hurt right before halftime. I talked to him, and he said, "Oh, we're going to commit after the game." And then I see a tweet come out that he's committed to Alabama. So a lot of shaking up. All the guys were kind of running around trying to get interviews, figuring out what was going on. But Trevon's an Alabama Roll Tide guy now, and it's a little bit of a question where he's going to play. I know Alabama prefers him as a corner. He would rather play receiver. Where that will kind of falter out.
That's always the question, right? It's like the coaches want one thing, the player wants the other. How does that actually work out?
Yeah, we'll see. Honestly, I don't think we've heard the last from Trevon. I think this commitment could be ongoing a little bit. As
what do you mean?
Typically, Alabama.
Because my ears perk up when you hear that. Right?
There's been some rumors that he might not necessarily be an Alabama take. Whether that is true or not, that remains to be seen. But if that's the case, obviously he can't go there, so we could see a late flip or something of that nature, especially anytime you're talking about a Diggs.
And it's interesting. Lane Kiffin was out in Montgomery County passing league this summer trying to sway Dwayne Haskins, to the Alabama. And we know the relationship between Dwayne Haskins and Trevon Diggs, so there's a connection there. And also, I heard the outstanding defensive end from St. John's Terrell Hall is also leaning toward Alabama as well.
Yep.
What do you guys think of when these guys make their commitments and then they sort of switch it later on? What is it sometimes maybe family saying we would like you closer to home? I mean, is there more of a common trend with that, or is it just depending on the individual person?
I'd say it can be family a lot of times. A lot of times it's a numbers game. Certain colleges only have a certain amount of guys they can take, especially at a specific position, and they might want someone else over Trevon Diggs, especially when you're talking about Alabama when they can recruit nationally. So it's always a numbers game when it comes down to college recruiting. And
a lot of times, I mean, when coaches are fired, the players will commit to a school and a coach get fired, and they'll decommit. And that happened in the case with Izon Pulley, who committed to Miami, and Al Golden was given the axe, and I got word that Izon has decommitted from the Counsel defensive lineman has decommitted from Miami. So his commitment is his recruitment is still wide open now.
That's true. I guess if the guy recruits you and he's no longer there, that may change your mind
exactly.
Just a little bit. All right, when we come back, the weekly fast forward here on the Prep Zone. All right, I'm here with Josh Apple, and you've spent a lot of time with a receiver, Kumari Marie, breaking all kinds of records this year. Who is Kumari Marie?
He's a guy that transferred into the McNamara program as a sophomore, immediately developed a great relationship with his quarterback, Ramar Williams, and together the two of them have put on just a clinic in terms of stats in their time together at McNamara. And here you see in his highlights, he's a guy that has some great speed, shiftiness, hard guy to bring down. But what's most impressive is, like you said, he's breaking some records. He's the WCAC all-time leader in both receptions and in receiving yards. He broke both those marks on senior day, which is really neat for him. That was in a game against St. Mary's Riken on October 24th. He had 11 catches for 193 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game to put his total now at 148 receptions and almost 2,500 yards for his career. So pretty big-time numbers there.
In terms of recruiting, what kind of recruiting interest is he getting from schools right now?
He's a bit of an undersized receiver. He's only 5'9", 150 pounds, 155 pounds. So not necessarily what colleges are looking for, but he does have some interest so far. He has one offer from Seton Hill. That's a Division II program in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. That's the only offer. He also has interest from Morgan State in Baltimore and from Rhode Island. Admittedly, he says he's an underrated receiver, despite the stats and some of the numbers you see here. And as an underrated receiver, he says that inspires him to work harder, become better, and that's actually made him a better receiver in his time.
So I assume then, by you saying that, he's a guy that's pretty motivated. He's a guy that sort of sees this as not like an obstacle, but just something to get him, hey, it gets me fired up, and I have more to prove still as a player.
Absolutely. I'm sure he'd prefer to have some big-time offers.
Sure, yeah, they all, right? Yeah.
But that being said, he's a really hard worker. He describes his strengths as being a hard worker and his football IQ, and having spoke with him, he seems like a really intelligent guy, like he has a good head on his shoulders. So I know that once he does land on a college roster, some team will be very happy to have him.
All right, if you want to catch the rest of that conversation with Josh, of course, check it out at DMVSTREAM.COM. The AllMetSports.com weekly fast forward, gentlemen. We get into our crystal ball a little bit here, look at the games coming up, make some previews, hope that we're right maybe. Sometimes that's the way that it is. We at least try. When it comes to the WCAC, we got Gonzaga, good Counsel. This is the conference right here. This is where a lot of the talent is. Who wants to go first? Who wants to make the preview here?
Well, I'll talk about them a little bit. But we've already played this game once this season, and you saw Gonzaga come away 32-13 victors. I think the case might be a little bit different this time. Anytime you're playing rivalry games, it's going to be a close game, especially playoffs. But Tyree Randolph has kind of been the go-to guy for Gonzaga all year, and I don't think that's going to stop. You talk about two teams who are ground-based, but I think Gonzaga does a little bit more through the air than Good Counsel does. Sam Brown's been really good, actually, as a quarterback, kind of out of nowhere this year for Gonzaga. I really look for Max Fisher and Sam Brown to be the difference in that game. They can get it done a little bit through the air, whereas Dre Castillo for Good Counsel has kind of struggled a little bit this year, and they've really leaned heavily on Muhammad Ibrahim to run the ball. So they're a little one-dimensional on offense, and I think that could be the difference.
As for you, Brandy, prediction?
Yeah, I was at the first game. It was tied 7-7 at halftime. Gonzaga pulled away second half. I think Tyree Randolph is a great player from Clinton, Maryland, Prince George's County kid. But I like Good Counsel. Bob Malloy, he's going to have his team prepared, and they're going to kind of I guess fix the things they did and adjust the things they did in the last game. I like good Counsel in this matchup.
You disagreed with us. If you look at the graphics there, you went the opposite way. All right, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. The next one up, guys, Northwest, Richard Montgomery. I mean, how do we want to go with this? Do you want to go first?
Oh, I mean, this is a great Montgomery County matchup. Northwest and Richard Montgomery. Northwest won the first meeting. It was a close game, but I mean, Josh Klotz has done a great job this year. He's definitely the coach of the year in Montgomery County, in my opinion. They have a great player in Daniel Alexander, a senior, and a quarterback named Spencer Silverstein. Remember that name? He's only a sophomore, but he's getting the job done this year. It's going to be a great matchup. But I like Northwest. Mark Pierce has won 2 state championships. Going, I guess, his third go-around, looking for that third state championship. It's going to be a great game, but I just like Northwest. They have the experience, and Mike Dubeiser is a great coach. Already 2 state championships under his belt as head coach at Northwest. I'm going to go with the Jaguars.
All right, Brandon.
I tend to agree. I mean, Northwest is one of the more battle-tested teams in our area. They've been through 2 state title runs. They've played Quince Orchard and Seneca Valley already this year. Richard Montgomery kind of playing a little bit weaker schedule, so I think you definitely have to look at Northwest as being the favorite in this matchup.
All right, when we come back, Seneca Valley, Linganore. We'll get into that one next. This is the Prep Zone.
Welcome back to Hyattsville for the Saturday finale of the National High School Hoops Festival as DeMatha welcomes in Chaminade. I'm Jeremy Hubert, joined by Junior Burrow, and again, we've got ourselves what should be a very good game, Junior, as you look at DeMatha and their storied tradition versus Chaminade and the #1 junior recruit in the nation, Jason Tatum.
I tell you what, it's been a long day for us, right? We've been here all day. These are the kind of matchups you want. You have DJ Harvey on one end, you have Jason Tatum on the other end. I mean, you have everything you want. You have dynamic green players. Come back and critique games and stuff that we're going to be doing I guess Junior is okay.
This team is way more.
That would be number 13, B.J. King, who came over, transfer from St. Mary's, St. Vincent. That sounds familiar. That's where LeBron James went to school.
I tell you what, Coach Morello just won the lottery, basically. He's a 6'7" weight player that defends the rim and defends basketball. I mean, he's one of the top 10 players in the country, the USA basketball. I mean, whatever, everything you want in a weight player, this kid has.
Junior, what a remarkable event. I know you've been a part of that to take on Chaminade as this event just continues to grow each year.
Absolutely. Everything's starting to feel like
Principal is Oak Hill.
Able to handle the ball. They turn people over a lot.
It's easy to say, but also have the first off number 23, DJ Harvey, just a sophomore, but so good.
I mean, you're talking about wing players. We've been talking about it all day. He's one of the better. He's athletic. He can shoot the basketball. He has a great demeanor. He knows how to play. Comes from a fantastic family. Transfer from the Alabama area. Really athletic. Everybody wants to see him. Every school in America wants him. Great kid.
All right, back inside the Prep Zone, All Met Sports Weekly Fast Forward. One more game left for us to get into, guys. Two traditional powers, Seneca Valley, Linganore. Brandon, how do you see this one going?
I mean, this one's definitely going to be a good old-fashioned slobber knocker in the 3A West. But this one's going to be it's definitely going to be a defensive matchup. You're talking about two of the best defenses in the state. Again, I think the difference might be on offense. I think Linganore is a little more complete on offense. They've got a good running back. They've got a couple good receivers, and their quarterback has done everything this year. Passed the ball, run the ball, done a little bit of everything. You see him here running the ball off the tackle, but he's been a really good asset to them this year. It pulls on my heartstrings a little bit, but I think Linganore might take this one. I'm an SV alum, but I got to go. I'm a realist. I got to go with who I think is going to win.
And that's good. Get your heart out of these three. Use your head only. That's a smart way to do it. All right, Brandy, how do you see it going?
Well, these two teams are both traditional powers, like you mentioned, Seneca Valley and Montgomery County. 12 state championships, more than any other program in the state of Maryland. Linganore, coached by Rick Connor, who's one of the greatest coaches and one of the best coaches, top coaches in Maryland as well. Fred Kim over at Seneca Valley. You got Rick Connor over at Linganore. Two head coaches going head to head. I just like the Screaming Eagles of Seneca Valley in this one.
Do you like them just because of their name or because of actually what it is?
Well, I mean, Adrian, I've seen them a couple times this year. Adrian Felice Platt is one of the top runners in the county and in the area. I mean, the guy's just once he gets an open field, he's so fast and so powerful. Kind of reminds me of Barry Sanders.
Oh wow!
I mean, he's like he's a load to bring down, and once once he's in open field, he's gone.
Is it more of the shakiness of Barry Sanders, or just the open field, or maybe just a combination of both?
Right.
You see there,
power of strength and speed. I mean, he's short and packed to the ground. Packs a powerful punch. He's just a force to bring down.
Yeah, that's pretty much like the best combination you could have as a running back, right? You just kind of, you add in all those things a little bit. I guess that's probably the way to go. All right, so this helmet sits in front of us every week, and I've decided I just want to come up with this tradition and just have somebody put it on. Every single time I can be a part of this. Are you volunteering? All right, Brandon. Stick it on your head, because it just sits there every time. That's all we need. Smack yourself in the head a couple of times because things get out of control here. There you go.
Strap it up.
Helmet on, strap it up, ready to go. If you missed anything, of course, you can check any old shows, anything you want to go back to, DMVSTREAM.com. Josh Apple's interview's up there as well. If you just want to watch this again because why not? You want to see Brandon put a helmet on again. Check it out there, too. This is the Prep Zone.